Oh, hey, Alice. Good timing. We're sitting here with William James from Sleeper Signal. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm feeling good today. Yeah.
It's wet outside, but I'm glad you made it.
Thank you. Of course, it had to start raining on my way over here. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, of course. That's how it always works.
Yeah.
We've also got Shrieking Violet with us, Cordie Nicole. Yeah. So Sleeper Signal. You guys have music videos out, music streaming on all platforms.
Mm-hmm.
You have a tour coming up.
We sure do. We've got a bunch of away dates coming up. Really excited about it. And it feels good to be able to get out there, especially after like COVID and all that, when we were getting momentum. And then unfortunately that kind of put the kibosh. So to be able to get out there, we did a run in the winter time, which was great. So like early 2022. And it was just awesome. It felt good. It was warmer out in Jacksonville and Georgia and some of the places that we played than it was still here. And it felt just good to warm my bones a little bit and play some rock and roll. So
how long have you guys been a group?
So we've been a band now almost 3 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And how many records do you have out?
We have one and a single, and we're getting ready to release an EP actually, which I'm really excited about.
That's what's up.
Yeah, basically, as it kind of all unfolded, I moved here 3.5 years ago. I'm from New York, Connecticut originally. And I visited Nashville my senior year of college, fell in love with it, and basically was like, I want to move here. At that point, I was already halfway done recording the Sleeper Signal EP, which was our first kind of recorded content, but I did it all by myself. So I played all the instruments on it, drums, bass, guitar, vocals, whatever. And basically my goal was to come down here with that and find a band. It happened pretty quick, and we started playing. Couple shows, COVID happened, and I was like super depressed. I was like, oh no, like this is it, like they're gonna lose interest. But no, instead we kept rehearsing twice a week,
right on,
getting it together and all that stuff, and then eventually writing songs as a band, which was always what I wanted. You know, I didn't want it to be like the William James show. I needed compadres, I needed like guys that I could mesh with. So well, I think I got lucky.
Right on. So like, what did you have when you were thinking about moving? Was it just Nashville, or did you have other ideas in mind? Or
I mean, I had some ideas. My family originally is from the Bronx. When I was, little, basically after 9/11, we moved to Fairfield County, which is right outside of, it's still technically considered like New York City Metro because it's so close. And so I grew up in kind of a suburb, it was fantastic. As a kid, like I was allotted a lot of great things that my parents worked really hard for. Long story short, after college, I'd always imagined moving back into Manhattan proper, though, like moving into like the East Village specifically, but that cost a shit ton of money. And also the music scene is kind of dead there, and it's just a way different vibe. So my love for like outlaw country music, like Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, just like the allure of like, oh, it's Music City, was always calling. And so basically I was like, you know what, it's either going to be New York City, Nashville, or LA. Still haven't been to California. Kind of good on it for right now. I mean, and that's
too.
I mean, that's all hearsay though. I haven't been there, so I can't really make that judgment. But so I kind of fell on Nashville because like when I visited, I saw and did little research and seeing, how much the cost of living is. I was like, oh, this could be so easy. Why not? And
things changed.
things have changed. It's been a bit of an adjustment for me, and as I'm sure it has been for y'all. But the charm of it, the allure of the friendliness, how slow it was.
Yeah, you get the benefits
charming.
of being able to feel like you're living in the country or in a small town while still having the opportunities and the accessibility of the city.
Big time. Absolutely. It's very easygoing, very laid back. I had to adjust a lot. I still am. I mean, I'm the loudest fucking motherfucker I know, and there's times where I'm like blowing around, like, come on, we got to get somewhere. And I'm like, all right, they do things a little bit differently here, right? But even venturing out to other areas of Middle Tennessee, I was working a corporate financial and insurance job during COVID, which required a lot of traveling, and I got to see like the actual countryside and like kind of get an appreciation for the Southern hospitality and the lifestyle. And very much an outlier. They knew you'd walk into somebody's home to do business and they're like, you ain't from around here, are you? And I wouldn't even try and fudge it. I'd be like, nope, I am not. But I would love, like, I'm in your house, I'm playing by your rules. That's was my mindset moving here to Nashville. And it's been welcoming and kind, and I try to give that back as much as I can.
It's funny you say that because I hear that from my other friends from the Northeast. Like I'm from Mississippi, so like this is like crazy to me. I'm like, wow, it's a big city, yo. But I was hanging out with my friend, and I was like, oh, I should get going so you can like, because you got work tomorrow. And he's like, it's so weird. Like in the South, people are so polite about excusing themselves to leave. They always make it out like they're an inconvenience to you. And he's like, up north, it's not like that.
Oh yeah, well, you know, me being Italian, it's like the Italian goodbye takes freaking eons. It's like, oh, I'll see you. Oh, and how's someone? So how's your sister doing? Yeah, stuff like that. But I also have Irish buddies who are like, I'm over it, fucking out. I'm not gonna say goodbye. See you. So yeah.
What did your parents listen to when you were growing up?
So actually, everyone in my immediate family is a musician.
Oh wow, okay.
My mom and my dad met playing in a rock band together.
Oh shit.
My dad was the drummer, my mom was the lead vocalist. And as the rock and roll way goes, I came about. They got married.
What was the name of their band?
I think they were called The Second Coming, which I think is kind of wild. Yeah,
that is fucking awesome.
Which is so cool. Yeah,
they
had a good go of it. They had original songs. I think they had a small contract with Atlantic Records for a while, which is pretty cool. My older sister, who is technically my stepsister or half sister, which is just that's my sister, whatever. Her father, who again, very close, he was also involved in that group. And so it's like everyone was musicians. My stepfather, Todd, whom I love and introduce him as my own father, he is a drummer also. So I grew up very musical. Never took music lessons. It's like growing up in a household where you speak a language, you just kind of pick up on things. You know, my grandfather was a well-known gypsy jazz guitar player in New York City in the 30s. My uncle, who taught me how to play guitar, was a successful guitar player in the 70s. He played with acts like Diana Ross and stuff like that. So it was really cool. So there was always instruments kind of lying around. So I grew up in a very musical family. My mom, I grew up listening to, the Beatles is everything to us. That's my favorite band. But my folks kind of went through that late 70s, 80s, 90s new wave punk rock thing. So like it wasn't uncommon for my mom and dad to be hanging out at clubs like CBGB and stuff like that. So very heavy on like the Pretenders, Talking Heads and stuff like that. A very cool thing for me that I still have is I have my mom and dad's vinyl records. I have my older sister's vinyl records and my vinyl records. So it's very generational. And then a lot of Pink Floyd, a lot of like progressive rock music and stuff like that. You know, anything really intriguing is mostly.
So you got a pretty healthy buffet of music.
I was very lucky.
Yeah,
and I had open ears. You know.
Yeah. So what was the first instrument that really called to you?
The drums, actually.
Really?
That's the instrument I've been playing the longest. Seeing my dad play the drums as a little kid, I just had such an allure to it. The way, like, I still remember this, like seeing them perform like at like block parties or whatever, stuff that a little kid could go to. I just remember seeing my dad behind the drums. And when you're a little boy, you look up to your dad so much. And my dad, a lot bigger than me, especially at this age. He towers over me by 4 inches and was like a solid 275. He was also a part of the FDNY. He was a fireman. Okay. And so like just seeing this big, powerful man like play the loudest instrument of the band was cool for me. And I will never forget like hearing like the sound of the kick drum and how it like it hits you in the chest, especially as like a little guy. So there's pictures of me on my dad's lap, you know, behind the kit and him just kind of hitting the drum and I'm there. So
wow, that's a really powerful image, man. Like like you're saying, like so much power at what you're looking at. Like that's your father, like this big figure. It's like protecting father figure. And there's like so much power in what he's doing. Like that's gotta, like I'm putting myself there. That's wild.
Yeah, it's primal. That's human nature. Just like, oh, like caveman. So like play the, you know, hit the drum, play the beat, you know, and then see my mom singing was wild too. So I think like at a young age, I kind of was attracted to like, I'm either going to be that or that, mom or dad, right?
Gotcha.
So that was cool. Started playing the drums when I was 6, 7 years old, and it took off very quickly. I played little league, pee-wee, baseball, and football. And when they bought me a drum set, all that went away. I didn't want to go to practice anymore. I wanted to play the drums. And, you know, I was talking to somebody recently, and they said, well, you know, what's the longest instrument you've been playing? Like, what instrument have you been playing the longest? And I was like, I guess the drums. They were like, how long? I'm 27 now. And I was like, oh, like, you know, I'm thinking like 10 years. And I was like, no, I would have been 17. I was like, hold on a minute, I've been playing the drums for 20 fucking years. What's like, that's wild.
Yeah.
I was drumline captain in high school. When I went to college, I was in a jazz program playing drums, and all that while I picked up playing guitar when I was 13. Which I think was the best age to do it. I had a sense of rhythm by that point and enough patience to sit down and learn something a little bit more difficult, at least to me.
Yeah.
So,
did you have any pets growing up?
yeah, had a dog. We had a couple of dogs. Not big on cats.
Okay.
We were not a cat family. I was allergic, which is funny. My girlfriend now has a cat, and I'm like obsessed with the fucking thing. I come home and I'm like, come here, princess. Like, you'll see me walking around the house with an open beer, like with the cat cradled in my arm, like, yeah, and I'm singing, I'm dancing with it, like being a goofball. So yeah, I guess, yeah, pets. I love pets. I love animals, you know.
Yeah. So you guys were a dog family.
Dog family for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any ghost stories?
Ghost stories. Actually, it's funny you said that, and like something popped into my head immediately. So when we bought the house in Connecticut when I was roughly in the second grade, it was after 9/11, like everyone was kind of booked out, right? And my mom was convinced that weird shit was going on in this house. And my older sister Danielle and I were actually fucking around with a Ouija board. And we got very spooked out. And my mom, especially when you're Italian, everything is so heightened and it's a spiritual. And it's like, oh my God, they put the Malort on the whole thing. My mom actually had a priest come into the house and bless the home because she was convinced that there were spirits that were
Can
unwelcome.
I just butt in real quick? What did the Ouija board look like?
Classic, like you're
like a display, like a rainbow, like kind of like this. And
yep, like an arc like that. Like you're plain and simple, like Mattel or Bradley or whatever toy company made it. Type of Ouija board.
I was just curious. I didn't mean to interrupt. You said someone came in to cleanse the house.
Yeah, it was the local priest, you know, Catholic, whatever. And to me, it was a very like scary thing. I was like, what is going on in this house? We're like, this is strange. And my mom was like, we gotta bless the home. We gotta bless. There's old spirits here. You know, we grew up very spiritual too, though, at the same time, you know.
Okay.
Are you religious to this day or spiritual? I know they're different.
Rock and roll is my religion.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'll cheers to that. Let's go ahead.
That is
Let's get that out of the way.
Cheers.
And the reason I say that, so I grew up obviously in an Italian family, so I'm actually a confirmed Catholic, but it seems so serious. I didn't like it, you know, the whole chanting, you know, through him with Eminem. It just like freaked me out. Like,
so you guys went to church as a kid?
For the most part, more so my grandma, like my mom growing up went to a Catholic school, and like an all girls Catholic school in New York. And I don't get the feeling that she liked it very much. She wanted to be a free spirit. She was the youngest in the family. There's actually a pretty funny story I could tell you. It might piss her off, but when my mom was a teenager, she was playing in a rock band in her later years in high school. So she was always late to class because they would play out at night in New York. And one day, because it was run by nuns, right? Well, one day my mom put her book bag on her thing, went to the bathroom to go use it, and then come back, and the nun slammed the door in her face and locked it. And my mom, apparently, as she told me, was banging on the door. And the nun finally answers the door, and my mom bitch slapped this nun right in the face. Like, don't you ever disrespect me like that type of deal. Yeah. Got kicked out. And apparently when her parents, my grandmother and grandfather, rest in peace, miss them very much, came to the school because the principal called them in. Apparently my grandfather was like, oh, what was she supposed to do? I think I would have done the same thing. Don't you agree, Marie? You know, like type of deal. Because we grew up hardcore.
Damn right. They locked you. Fuck that bitch.
Yeah,
she locked you in the bathroom.
We also came from a bit of a, I don't want to say rougher family, but a family that knew how to do Italian business, if you understand, right? So it was, my great grandparents were immigrants from Italy and stuff like that. So my mom kind of grew up like don't let anyone push you around. I'll never forget, as a kid, my mom was only, have a backbone. Don't let anybody give you shit. Do not get pushed around in this life, or you'll get walked all over. And I'm grateful to have had a mom be able, like, it wasn't my dad. Like my dad was always like, don't get pushed around, you know, but be cool. Like mom was like, don't ever let anybody fucking disrespect you. So like growing up like that. So
your mom sounds like a badass.
My mom is a fucking badass. She's my best friend, and she, you know, taught me what it meant to be respectful towards women and how to treat just people in general. To have a strong female figure like that in my life, my whole life, I'm very grateful for. So yeah.
So ghost stories?
Yeah, I guess that was really the only one.
Okay.
You know, I mean, sometimes I I guess more recently, when I moved into the apartment that I just recently moved out of over in East Nashville, it was a very old home. And I was having night terrors. Like the first week that I lived there, it was the first time I was really living on my own for the first time. Basically, an ex-girlfriend and I broke up. And I was like, well, I'm moving out. Obviously, I'm moving back to East Nashville and I got this old house. But it was the first time that I ever really truly lived by myself, nobody else. And it scared the bejeebus out of me. And I was having like out of body, like sleep paralysis. Like I felt like I was being haunted almost in this house. And it took a while to kind of like, I almost had to develop a relationship within my new home and living space by myself. And I think a lot of it's mental and psychological, but I just could not sleep for like a week straight.
I really want to dig into that because I moved to Nashville and I ended up living alone for the first time in my life. And most of the time I've been here, and I've been here 10 years, I've lived alone. But before that, and you know, I always live with my family and I don't have family here. And living alone, it almost makes you feel borderline schizophrenic. Like not to be disrespectful, but you start hearing things. You think somebody's knocking on the door and you realize, oh, that's just my pulse in my throat and I can hear it. You know, like I suffer from hypnopompic hallucinations, which is you wake up, you move around, you communicate, but you see things there. So can you tell me a little bit about your sleep paralysis?
Very similar situation. It was always very quiet. So there was like a long stretch of time, I guess, until the whole time I lived there by myself. I had a routine where I would come home and I would put Saturday Night Live on in my bedroom, but have music cranking in the living room and then on the phone with somebody. Like a lot of shit happened because I needed like a full house. Like I didn't have any pets. It was just me and whatever. I needed constant noise because if it was dead quiet, like again, like that, I'd be freaking out. So like you put the TV away and you go to bed and your head hits the pillow. And it very much like that, I kept waking up, but like hearing shit that wasn't really there. And I couldn't, like, I was so exhausted, tired. I was working in insurance and finance at the time, so I had a lot of stress on my brain. Like I couldn't, and I was exhausted. I couldn't like wake up to be like, all right, this isn't real. Like go back to bed. Like I just was trapped in it. And you would go to sleep again and wake up like, what was that? Like type of deal. Very similar to kind of what you described there, Cordie.
That's so rough. Did you ever have nights where you just slept with the lights on? You're like, fuck it.
Can't sleep with the lights on.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think you feel that way?
In those moments? I think I have a very busy brain sometimes. And I listen to a lot of music and I play a lot of music. And I think that the sound of like silence, so to speak, like is odd. You start hearing other things. You start hearing yourself.
Because I feel like there's so few people that know what it's like to truly live alone. You know, you may have roommates that are uninvolved or something like that, but we live in a generation where not many people experience true silence. And the thing about silence is it makes you hear things that you've never heard before.
So I guess I'm trying to get at the root of what do you think those things are that you're hearing?
I think it's the way you communicate with yourself, even when you're not speaking, right? So like the thoughts that kind of go on in your head when like the whole like, all right, I got to do this, I got to do that. Like when you figure all that out, and then it's just like, well, now what?
Okay.
Right.
So your brain creates stimulus, pretty much.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so, at least.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
And I feel like any minute stimulus you hear, whether it's a train that's like 5 miles away and you don't understand what it is, your brain starts writing stories for that.
When you mentioned the train, there was a train right by my old apartment. I lived on Pennock over here in East Nashville, right? And there was a train that would go at random times of the day. And I always loved hearing it at night, because I wasn't stuck behind it, like 10 minutes late to whatever I was doing. But just the alert of like that in the middle of the night, it's like, who's on that train? What's on that train? Where's that going? I don't know. That wonder of not knowing, you know?
Yeah. Do you, so I mean, no one knows, but do you have any ideas about what happens after we die?
Man.
What are you laughing at?
No,
I just knew what you were gonna say.
Oh.
It's a fun thing to talk about, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of communication in death and dying, especially wondering what happens in the afterlife or the after our life. So when I was in my insurance job, a big thing that I sold was life insurance.
Okay.
And I used to deliver a lot of death checks, which is very touchy. You're the salesman, you're the servicer, and you're basically part of this family in that moment. And little Mrs. Johnson's crying because her spouse passed away. No, I mean, it was, dude, well, in those moments, yes, but it almost like felt good because you were helping these people in a big way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you wrote them something that will make this process a lot easier, but you're also there to console them as
That's
a
awesome.
stranger, you know, no
Yeah.
ties to the family drama or whatever. And you learn a lot about people too, you know, especially in Tennessee, because the connections with country music and especially that generation. So like, oh, and here's a picture of him with Elvis back then. It's like, what? And you're like me as a music lover, what the fuck? That's insane. That's crazy. Like, but would also beg the question of like, they would say like, well, they're in a better place now. Very Christian down here. It's like they're with Jesus now, or they're, you know, they're in heaven and this and that. But like me not being from here and not kind of like really giving too much thought about that, I've often wondered like, well, where do we go? You know, and I don't know.
Well, no one does, but it's fun to think about, like you said.
I think we do get reincarnated. I think when I think on my past life, I think that I was a sailor who passed away at sea once upon a time ago, or a passenger on a ship. I think that's my allure with the ocean too. Like I love swimming. I love being by the ocean. I love the sound of it, but there's also a deep uncertainty that comes with it because it's so much more powerful than we are. It can undertake me in a second, or I can enjoy its vibe. Right.
Right.
I think that's why I got sailor tattoos all over me, like unbeknownst to myself, you know, like I just thought they looked cool and this and that. My grandfather was in the Navy. I come from a very military family. So, you know, my grandfather was in the South Pacific during World War II and almost died at sea himself. So like, I get it. I have reoccurring dreams. They're never the same. Like I always wake up lost at sea by myself, adrift, not dead, not living, but at peace. Which I'm sure you could break down a million different ways, but that's kind of like my tie to it. So
that's really cool.
I guess, yeah.
Well, I guess also scary, but yeah, that's just interesting. Do you, okay. Yeah, I'm of a similar mindset. I think that's definitely, I think there's multiple answers. But I think that's one of them is reincarnation.
What do you think? Have you thought about it recently? Has it
Yeah.
changed since you started thinking about it when you were probably like 12 or 13 years old?
Oh, definitely. I was raised really religiously. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I was also homeschooled.
Okay.
So I was very sheltered. And I moved out when I was 18, and I had a lot of questions when I was a teenager. So definitely, I definitely think differently about it then than I do now. Through dimethyltryptamine, I have had visions of, and you know, I take this with a grain of salt because we're talking about a drug trip.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've been shown in that moment, it was unequivocal that there was no arguing with it. Like I'm being shown that the universe was just kind of doing its thing.
Yeah.
And then one day it woke up to itself, like consciousness arose out of the universe.
Very cool.
And after a while, it was just like profoundly alone because it's all that there is. Like there is nothing except it. So it creates life so it can go down into these avatars and pretend that it's not alone.
But it is.
It is
alone.
Well, there's only one, but we're not alone because we're all hanging out, even though we're all the same person.
Exactly. I mean, you know, I've always been intrigued by like Greek mythology and oh man, I'm blanking on the name of it, but the idea that there are more than one God. What's the name of it?
Oh, polytheism?
Yes. So I think that as individuals, like, and it sounds like really egotistical and kind of almost ignorant, but like I think we are all our own gods because ultimately, like in this shot that we have, we're in control of our own destiny.
And what a lot of people don't realize is I feel like that is what every religion is telling us. But every religion is misunderstood by the masses.
I'm gonna say at the end of the day, it's semantics. Like you said about the universe, it got lonely. That's the same thing people say about God, you know?
Yeah. I think every major like group of thinking is basically saying the same thing, and it's all semantics. But like, yeah, so I'm of the opinion that we're all the same entity. And paradoxically, simultaneously, living all these different lives, right? I think what makes us different is our genetics and also our like our environment, like things you've been through.
Yeah. Well, it's also timeline too. You think about how did all these special people end up in one place, particularly Nashville? We all had this idea to get to a certain place, to meet people that we've enjoyed. I don't think that there's a person that I've met down here that I'm like, I hate that motherfucker. Fuck that guy. Most of the people that I have found myself in circles with are like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
It's almost like that idea of the collective consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we have this mindset that we want to be somewhere and we want to get someplace together. We just don't know each other yet, but everyone kind of ends up there.
It's kind of the law of attraction too, in a way. You put out there what you're looking for, and it will find you if you focus on it and you put your energy into it long enough.
Big time. Yeah. Big time.
On what you were saying about polytheism, I think that's nested in. I believe there's like every god exists within. I guess what I'm saying, like so like God is going down into gods and like living those gods as well. So it's like. Well, I mean, it's the thing is, like, if we observe the universe, right? It's like, from what we can tell, the universe is infinite.
Yeah.
Not only outwards, but like inwards, from what we can tell too, which is mind-boggling. It's hard to wrap your head around. But from what we're observing, everything is infinite. So I don't see why we wouldn't apply that to metaphysical concepts. Like, I think, like, everything is out there. And everything.
Speaking of metaphysics, do you believe that every god does exist because people believe?
So
the idea of like parallel universes, that if you think it's happening somewhere.
So this is going to take a minute to kind of unpack, but yes, I think, well, yes and no. I think so I've which we can get into this more if you want, but I've had several like many experiences with what I would consider spirits. And what I think is happening when I'm interacting with these things, because there's basically two lines of thinking. There's, this is an external entity that I'm interacting with, or this is some deep form of my subconscious. So I think neither of these are sufficient. I think it's somewhere in the middle. What is in your head and what is external in the universe, in the void, whatever, there's really no difference. That's really just a flaw in our thinking. What you conceive of is real. Now, that's where it gets like paradoxical, because I think that thing existed before you thought of it as well. So like, yes, you conceive of this thing, but it's also already there. So it's like a handshake. So if that makes sense, like if you, like all things that will exist if you take time out of the equation.
Right? Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It wouldn't be so cool to be able to see how things over time have existed, right? That's why I think more recently, seeing that footage from the telescope that went out to space, finding those new galaxies. I talked to some people who could give a fuck about it. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, like there's so like, that's a piece of history. I mean, how old are you guys?
I'm 26.
26, I'm 27.
I'm almost 30.
Cool. I think I was gonna say I just turned 21. No. But like in our lifetime, I mean, you think about like the crazy American history, or just, I guess, the world as we know it, history that has happened since we've been born, right? Things like war, things like 9/11, or Obama, like huge strides in like history as we know it as Americans, but also like in the world. Like we've seen so much since we were born already. Imagine like what will go on after our time is here now. Like that's crazy, like to think about. Wouldn't it be cool to see it?
It would be very cool to like see, maybe that's what aliens are doing. Maybe they're just like, it's like a little zoo. It's like this, let's see what happens, like a little social experiment.
Well, like one of my buddies that I work with, he's also a musician, and we were talking about the pictures that came back from the other galaxies. And my first thought was like, dude, what kind of music do you think they're listening to out there? Do they even know music? Is music a thing there? Like I just immediately had like all these questions. Like
what's funny about that, like this will be like episode like late 90s or early hundreds when it comes out. And like I used to ask people, do you believe in aliens? But I stopped because like what I'm realizing is like you're not going to find someone who like, it's very rare to find someone who's like, no, there's definitely life out there. Like find someone who disagrees with that is like pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
So the question I've changed it to is, do you think like aliens have interacted with Earth at all? Or I guess more specifically,
well, I mean,
humanity.
there are a lot of oddities about our planet that are hard to explain.
Yeah.
I mean, but you put science behind it, and it's like, okay, I get it. You know, I think, and this is like a crazy. So people always talk about like, oh, the Egyptian pyramids, that was totally aliens. But it's also like, are you that quick to discredit the power of manpower?
Right.
And you're talking
agree
about
with that
hundreds of years of slavery. Like, are you going to take away like the last thing that those poor people had that put together those perfect brick by brick like structures that we
Fair
know?
enough.
You know what I mean? And like, we're like, but the pyramids is like, dude, fuck the pyramids. Have you ever seen the Sistine Chapel? Like, have you ever seen like, you know, the World Trade Centers or like any of these old like buildings that are still to this day around?
That is a
The
great
Aztec
argument.
temples,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, yeah, you can say like aliens, like, but I honestly, I think human beings are able, you know, are capable of like creating something that is so magnificent and ginormous that like it's hard for us to wrap our head around. I mean, you look at the invention of the iPhone and all the things technology wise that have been designed. Like we herald Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, but it's like you see the pyramids, like boom, aliens. It's like I don't know about all that, dude. But
yeah,
I agree with you 200%.
Like to play devil's advocate on that, I think it's because they're much older. But
yeah,
that still is like
we didn't have the internet though.
It's like
we weren't as distracted. Like we just
fair enough.
Like we made calendars.
I mean, you think about the Pythagoreans and the people who invented mathematics.
Yeah, exactly.
As we know
like
it.
they studied the stars without telescopes.
Yeah, they went to work. That was it. They woke up this morning, was like, I'm gonna have purpose here. We're gonna understand something that's gonna be so mind blowing.
Like how narcissistic and self-absorbed it is it to think that like just because society is more evolved and comfortable that it's ever been, that we are, you know, of the first few generations of like genius level intelligence.
I agree. I also think that we're on the verge of a very societal shift all around as far as like our currency and our money making structure goes. Our generation in particular, but also like, dude, like let's be real for a second. Hasn't every generation felt like this at least once?
Probably.
Yeah.
we did make.
I think we're fed up though.
We are.
True.
And I do believe, like I said, we're not the first generation of extreme intelligence or that has individuals of extreme intelligence, but every discovery, you know, leads to the next one, you know, because we had calendars, because we had mathematics, it's enabled us to get to this point today. If that had not yet been discovered, we wouldn't already have these things, you know. Like it's
for sure.
And I think every generation has felt like I guess maybe what's the right word?
On the crux of innovation.
On the crux, like at the turn.
Yeah.
You know? But I think we can say that factually because like if we look at it, it's like,
to be fair, maybe
cars.
Maybe the first generation to experience electricity though felt that way.
Like we're old enough to remember dial-up, but we're not old enough to really remember a time prior to like internet or computers. You know, it's like So it's like that is so new, and then like radio is new, harnessing electricity is new, combustion engines are new, like super fucking new, like 200 years old. That's like nothing. So it's like we legitimately are on this, and we're at the very beginning of it. The next thing is going to be this AI shit. It's like
for sure.
So we definitely are at a really pivotal point in history. But I agree that probably every generation has felt that way, though.
Not to sound like a cliche, but I am oftentimes frightened of it. So like I'm very old school in my mindset, and I think I seek a lot of comfort in familiar old school things. Like I don't, especially when I was living alone, I didn't come home and like immediately hop on my PlayStation or watch TV or the latest, you know, episode of something. Like if the weather was nice, I'd sit on my porch, I'd throw my headphones on, I'd like pull up like an old school album, like pour out a little bourbon, like light up a cigarette, and just feel like comforted, like easing back into like something so familiar, and like from a place where like, fuck, I wish I was just there. Like, it seems like things were so easy, like throwing on Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, or like the Jackson 5's first record, ABC, like anything like that, and just being like, man, that's just like, that's so alive and exciting and comfortable and easy, dude. Like, you know, even with our band, you know, right now it's like we're playing bigger stages, which has been so exciting, and doing this and that and the other thing, but like I'm still so tied to like my old school vibe. And I'm not saying like I'm like another Jack White or anything like that. Like, that to me is too much, to be honest. But like, we're going digital with a lot of our gear these days, and I'm very like against it. Like, I like vintage guitar through high gain amps, like that's like my old school meets like, I want that in your face beat down metal rock and roll sound, but I don't want to go through X effects, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do that. And I'm like, you're like, it has to be tube driven. And so just because like I'm set in a certain way, you know, but I'm not afraid to go buy a brand new car because it's more fuel efficient than a freaking Model T truck. Like, I don't have time for that either. Like, you know, so I just finding comfortability, you know, things are just from a slower time. It's too fast.
You know, what's funny though, is if you were a mechanic, you might feel that way.
I often wonder, you know, I didn't know that.
Or it's like, if I was a computer guy, I'd probably be like really into like, have a deeper appreciation for like analog computer equiment.
Sure.
You know, just like real, like, like that kind of thing. But I guess because you're a craftsman, because you're a musician and you are a sound designer, like that stuff means a little bit more to you than like a car does. That makes perfect sense to me.
For sure. And it's not even as a tone purist. Like, if I can get the same sound, and like, I'm not going to bullshit somebody, but you know, like the vintage stuff sounds better. Like, if it sounds the same, we're like, dude, that's on the fucking money. Like, that's it. Like, that sounds it. Like, I don't care if this digital amp was invented yesterday. Like, that sounds identical to a 73 bassman. Like, I'm not going to bullshit somebody to be a purist. You know, it's the same way I get in my car and I'm like, dude, I need directions to blah, 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 blah. Getting your directions sounds, I'm like, cool, that works. That's awesome. In fact, when it doesn't work, I'm pissed off. Like, what the fuck? I just told you what, like, smart car, smart phone. And I'm sitting here like yelling at these like things, trying not to drive off the fucking like road. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah. This is a little bit off subject, but something that's really, you familiar with the concept of planned obsolescence?
No.
So like, things are designed nowadays to be replaced. They're not designed to last.
Okay.
Furniture is a great example. Like, you can't go buy quality furniture. You have to get bullshit furniture that you will replace in a few years.
Well, and that boils down to the idea of, again, capitalism. Like, if you bought something that was so good it would last forever, buy it right or buy it twice, right? But not everybody people have buy it right or buy it twice money.
That's So
I feel like that's a laziness of innovation, because you can create a product that will last forever and somebody creates something new that just offers features that weren't previously available. You're going to go out and buy it again, even though your previous, you know, dresser or whatever isn't defunct. And at that point, you're able to actually still utilize that and recycle it and be less wasteful, and somebody else would purchase that for a reasonable price. So I feel like it's really just the greed type of thing of corporations.
That's definitely a huge part of it. It's
unavoidable law.
I agree with you. It's not, I feel like it's not entirely malicious. There's definitely a huge greed factor to it. I think the other component to it is, if you build things more, the way things are made now, they can be mass produced, so more people can get them. They're not going to be as high of quality, but they're more accessible that way. So I mean, that is money driven as well, right? So you want to sell to the maximum amount of people as you can.
Walmart.
So I mean,
well, to the degree,
it just sucks though.
Even like, you know, musical equipment, right? So like, my favorite guitars are Gibsons. I love Gibson guitars. Like, I got really lucky with the few that I own. Like, they're good builds, but I also was like, I went through and played through a couple of different ones, was like, oh no, this is the one. Because again, it's like, you know, a 1957 Gibson was built with integrity and design and quality, right? But the mass production nowadays, you can get the 1957 reissue, have 4 of them, and not one of them plays the same, but one is the best, right?
Oh, I got you.
Riddle me that. And you're paying the same price point for each one.
Oh shit.
It's the same thing with buying homes. You know, I was trying to purchase my first home, and I remember being told, like, no, it's better to buy a home built in 1950 than 1980, because in the 80s the electricity wasn't wired correctly. There was all this stuff going on. Like, just watch out for lead paint to get you an older home. And nowadays we're just trying to build them and put them up as fast as possible. Whereas back in the day, they were meant to last generations, because those were going to be passed down through the family.
Why do you think the Brooklyn Bridge is still standing? Seriously,
we got the pyramids.
They did good work back in the day. There we go. Yeah, the best example.
Full triangle.
You guys know the comedian Duncan Trussell?
Oh, it sounds awfully familiar. Is he kind of in that same like run with like Rogan and
he has the show Midnight Gospel on Netflix.
I've seen it pop up in mine. Haven't
really?
watched it yet.
I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, but he has a little story that I feel like is really apt to this conversation. He's telling the story about how he's talking to this old hippie lady, and she's like, they don't make acid like they used to. And he's like, why is that? And she's like, because no one's a perfectionist anymore.
Damn. Probably in a little while. I think I'm doing all right now.
I'm gonna make a drink actually, but thank you.
Yeah, you're leaving us.
Dude,
no. I'm still listening. I'm here.
Okay. It's not really what you were saying, but I did want to ask, because I think like it's coded in our DNA. Like, our most natural instinct is the survivor instinct. Like we naturally perceive threats and to look out for things that are going to cause us harm. And we've never in the history of humanity ever lived in a time where luxuries and necessities are so readily available. Like, for example, you go to a burn, say, or you go camping, and you have to think, oh, I need to make sure I'm warm at night. I need to make sure that I cook food before it gets too dark to see what I'm doing, stuff like that. It occupies your mind. It keeps you busy. Do you feel like because we do have survival easier than generations before us, that it causes more worry, it causes more pettiness, more anxiety? Because your mind needs to look for perceived threats.
That's funny. That's a really good question. So I personally go through my day to day without a care or worry or anything like that, right?
That's so nice.
Because I feel like most challenges that might come my way, albeit a work discrepancy, or if you get more serious about it, like, oh shit, like I'm straying on the side of the road, what do? I feel like I'm prepared. And I feel like I always have been, because I went to wilderness camp as a kid, and my dad and my uncles always stressing hard, like, be a survivor. I also come from a family that's very military based. Also, my father was a fireman and stuff like that, and so were my uncles. So I always felt like I could take care of myself. Like, I don't really panic in situations. I panic in situations where I'm late for work because I stopped for Starbucks and the line is too long, and now I'm screaming, you motherfucker, like, hurry up. Those are the moments that kind of get me anxious and nervous. And look, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't fucking like camping. I don't like sleeping on the floor. No, okay, I changed that. I do like camping. It depends on who I'm with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be.
I'm
out here in the woods for this weekend, I need to love these people.
I 100% agree with you.
Right.
I love camping, but fuck being with the wrong people when you're camping.
Yes.
And fuck somebody that's gonna mansplain how to start a fire.
Nope.
All that aside, I just gotta have everything I need for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I need enough beer. If I get too hot, I need a place where I can maybe go take a shower, because I'm a neat freak and I have OCD and stuff like that. And I'm very clean cut. And even in the woods, I'm cleanliness is important to me. I don't know why, whatever. But yeah. How do you think you perceive, to ask you guys a question, challenges, and do you think that it's correlated to how we're wired in our brain? So it's provide an example, every time I'm confronted with maybe someone who's in my face or loud, my knee-jerk reaction is I'm going to be bigger than this person. I'm going to yell back at them. I'm going to fight them. I don't care what the fuck is going on, which is not healthy. It's something that we all work on, is patience, and I'm going to walk away from this. But your knee-jerk response to being pushed in a corner, what does that say about yourself?
I can relate to what you're saying. I feel like I'm actually really easily manipulated, because I try to be really honest about how I feel about but that makes you really easy to take advantage of, because you don't have any cards. All your cards are shown.
Yeah.
Right. So it's people that know how to like stir me up can do that.
Yeah.
Like, they can do that. And it's like, I fall for it. Like, so if I get with someone who's like being aggressive to me, it's like I mirror that. Like, I like become a mirror and like buck back at them.
Gotcha.
I feel like I do that more actually with the people that I know well. Like, I'm more likely to just brush them off. They're a stranger. But like, I'm actually more likely to get engaged with someone and like get in their face if I know them.
Yeah.
That makes sense though, because
Yeah.
if you're somebody who does like to be corrected when you're wrong.
Yeah. I expect it actually.
Yeah, if you're keeping people in your close circle, it's like I care about you. You're somebody I respect, so
Right.
it hurts
'Cause
more.
I'll
And
do
if
that
it's
for
coming from
you.
a stranger, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're a fucking dumbass.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's an idiot. Like, he probably just did like a bunch of crack. We don't know.
Oh yeah. And it's so funny. It's either one or the other too, right? So like when I am in situations where like maybe somebody that I'm close with, or just anyone that's like just being like ignorant or just like saying stupid shit, or like, or just like, all right, even make it more simple, because like that's all subjective. If you're like working on a team with somebody towards a goal, and they're doing something like incorrect or a way that doesn't necessarily follow the system, like there's a way to explain it, like, hey, like not trying to be nitpicky, like with gentleness and with care and with respect to them too, like, you're doing this awesome, try doing this, it might be a little easier this way, like it works, like just trust the process. Like, I think there's a way to address that rather than being like, yo, fucko, like you're fucking up again, like stop being a fucking idiot and get it right, because it's the way that we do it. Like, I think just general care for somebody else and their emotions and feelings.
It's
like,
so important.
Yeah, big time, man. I don't like being talked like that. I hate that. I shut down.
No one does, man.
And
No
there's
one
so many
does.
layers to that. Your response, it's largely like, what have you already been carrying that day? What are your experiences? What kind of patience have you already exerted here? But for that other person, it's so important to, like you said, be considerate and try to have that patience and that empathy, because you don't know what they're carrying. It's probably not about you. Like 9 times out of 10, the way that somebody treating you is about what they're going through and not about you.
It's so true. And again, like empathy and patience. And also like, so this is like really personal, but like, so during COVID, my therapist, amazing guy, love him to pieces. We had to have a lot of our meetings either by Zoom or by audio. And 9 times out of 10, I was in the car coming home from my office job. It's like already like a long fucking day or whatever. And I'm talking to this guy, and I was like, hey, I'm just, so-and-so, I'm pulling up to get a coffee real quick, drive through Starbucks, whatever, over in West Nashville. And I was like, hold up 1 second. And I'm ordering, I'm doing a thing. And he just heard how I spoke to this person. It was a lady. And I was like, how's your day going? I appreciate it so much. I was like, have a wonderful day. And I wrote it, and he asked me, he said, William, he was like, are you always that kind to people? I said, why wouldn't you be? He was like, that's actually really special. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, like, I know how abrasive and aggressive you can be, and I know how loud you can yell. I've heard in my office, but to hear you interact like that softly to a complete stranger. And I was like, well, dude, doesn't a little kindness go a long way? And it was like, hold on to that. Never forget that, because it does. Like, yeah, like, right?
You never know how you can touch somebody's day. You never know what they're carrying. And the smallest things, for me, have brought me to tears.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck how bad the service is. I hate people that treat waiters badly or waitresses badly. Like, okay, like if the service say something, but you don't have a right to yell at someone.
No, there's never a reason.
Even if your service is shit, like okay, they suck at their job, but they're a human being. Like,
I mean, maybe if you're kind to them and they start belittling you, then it's a murky area. That's just human interaction right there.
Actually, I've got a fun, if you guys want to hear it real quick, the time that has happened to me, right? And it was about a year ago. It was my first time ever in a Waffle House, ever, at the age of 26 years old.
Whoa.
The first time I've ever walked into a Waffle House. Are they not
that common in the North?
No, very.
Really?
We have diners and shit like that. Family
and you
business.
said you like things neat, so I guess Waffle House isn't your spot.
I mean, listen, I'm not one to judge, right?
If you ever see one.
Yeah. So check this out. We used to drive down. Again, this is post 9/11. I come from a family in New York. We used to go to Disney World a lot when I was a kid. My family, very blessed. My parents worked very hard and gave us really good upbringing. But we'd always drive down. We'd see like Cracker Barrel, Waffle House. And as kids, you're like, well, that looks like cool. And my mom, like, nah, that ain't that. We're not going there. Like, that's not real. We didn't. I still to this day don't eat fast food for that reason. I don't drink soda and stuff like that.
Honestly.
Well, whatever. I was trying to be like, I'm better than everyone. Like, no, it's just the way I fucking grew up. Whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm at a Waffle House, coming down from an acid trip after the Ren Fair with 2/3 of my band, actually. And my drummer Edgar goes, dude, you never been to Waffle House? We gotta go to fucking Waffle House. And I'm not in a position to argue. I'm a little drunk. I'm coming off this fucking high.
It is the best place when you're drunk and everything's
I can't argue with
The
that.
sun's still out. I'm hot. I'm tasting colors. I'm feeling everything all at once. Then the waiter comes by. And I noticed he had a bit of a fucking attitude. And I was like, start seeing yourself slip back into reality. I was like, was that guy a dick in that moment? Came back again. I was like, this guy's definitely an asshole. I said, hey, like everything's great, but I didn't get my side of eggs. Comes back and true ass story, drops the eggs off and goes, here's your eggs, and gives me the middle finger. And I said, are you fucking serious? And I went to get out of my chair, and my drummer Edgar, he's like, you're not going to do anything. This is Waffle House. You'll get shot. And I was like, what is this place? Dive into the eggs. Immediately, all that went away. The douchebag fucking waiter who was having a day and a half, the fact that I was about to drag this dude in the parking lot and fucking kick his ass, all that went away because these eggs were so phenomenal. I will never argue. If you said Waffle House right now, I'd be like, end the podcast. We're going to Waffle House. Fuck. We're going.
That's the perfect description of Waffle House. That's the whole thing.
We're
Is that you get the worst fucking service. I was like, you're talking about Waffle House? Like, that's not cool. But at the same time, phenomenal. No, worst service in the world, best food. Like, the whole joke is like, if you don't pull up and the cook and the server out front smoking a cigarette, like, it's not going to be good.
Exactly.
Like, you don't want good service there. The food's going to be shit.
A1 next level. Gordon Ramsay couldn't even argue. Hell yeah. It was phenomenal. I respect those people. I know what it's like to work in a rough, fast place environment, serving people and cooking, whatever, Yeah,
it's people probably come in drunk as fuck and declare a piss corner in Waffle House. Let's be honest, they've dealt with the worst.
Yeah. I bartended a long time. I've dealt with some shit. I couldn't even imagine dealing with what those people have gone through. Yeah. No, thank you.
Worst bartending story. Go.
Ooh. Is the one, there's a couple. There's one that got physical, but not by my design, and it wasn't at me and I wasn't at them, but it was Super Bowl Sunday. It was the Super Bowl where the Patriots lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, which was mind-blowing to me. I was like, oh my god, no way, backup quarterback. It was like a freaking like story picture, out of a movie. And a disgruntled Patriots fan and a very excited Eagles fan started getting after it. Well, let me tell you something. I'm not a big guy by any means. I'm tall, but I'm very skinny, whatever.
Nashville, New York, or Connecticut, just for context.
Oh, all day New York.
Okay.
You were in New York?
Where was that? I thought they were saying pick one.
Oh, no. Where were you when this was occurring?
This was in Connecticut at the time,
okay.
Right? So again, yeah, we had like Giants, Jets fans, Phillies fans, Patriots fans, you name it, because it's such a, mixed area of, where people are from. But these two started going at it, and they started went through a bar, stool down, and I jumped over the bar, and I'm in between these grown ass men. I'm maybe 23 at the time, and they're going in, and I literally was like this, and I felt like my back was and I yelled, I was like, guys, you are going to hurt me, stop. And they both just stopped, and I was like, and then I was like, and then I had to jump back into bartender mode, and I was like, you get the fuck in the parking lot, you stay right here. No, I said stay right here, and I was just like, what's going on? Stop this right now. So that wasn't the worst. The worst was probably when I was seeing a girl and it didn't end well. Basically, I didn't want to see her no more, and she wasn't taking no for an answer. So I ghosted her. I'm not gonna lie to you. I ghosted this girl. I was like, I'm not gonna engage anymore.
As long as you've told somebody, hey, I don't want to speak to you again. Ghosting sometimes can be the only answer.
Exactly, and I had to. And it's not that. We were young, so it happens, emotions are high. Well, anyway, it's Sunday bar. I'm behind bar, and this chick comes through, and she just starts yelling and screaming and crying at me from the other side of the bar. And I pulled her aside. I was like, I get it. I was like, hey, listen, just give me 3 hours. We can talk about this. I get where you're upset. I'm sorry, but we have things that we got to talk about. And she's screaming, oh, fuck you, Will Torrey. Fuck you. And I was like, stop. You can't do this. I was like, get the fuck out of my bar right now. I was kicked her out. Her friend comes in, starts yelling up a storm, this and that. And I just, at this point, I'm exhausted. My bar regulars are laughing dude, what did you do to this one? I was like, shut the fuck up. I don't need to hear from you. And fortunately, my little sister, who I love so dearly, is also at the bar. And she goes, Willie. She goes, and she worked there also. So she knew what to do, but she wasn't working that day. She was having lunch. Go to the kitchen. I got this. I was like, God damn, my sister, and then they're going at it. And it became push to shove. And my sister's parking lot right now. And I was like, oh my God. And my chef was like, dude, you're lucky. Your sister's a bad fucking motherfucker. So they're in the parking lot and their fingers in each other's face, like, fuck you, this, that, the other thing. Finally, the chick runs away. My little sister comes back to the bar. She goes, oh, good. The bar just goes wild. And I'm like, oh my God. And she was like, what the fuck do you do this girl? I was like, we'll talk later. I was like, nothing bad. Like this and that. And she was like, you got to stop messing with crazy. And I was like, stop. I was like, I get it. Just go finish your lunch, finish on my bar shift or whatever. And I was just like, what the fuck was that? That was insane. It went from yelling to a cheer and this and that. And it was wild. It was fucking nuts. And that was probably the worst because like I'm in a position where I can't like I'm in work.
Yeah, you're like, you're gonna get me fired.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, exactly. So that was probably my most torturous. I hold it down behind the bar. I'm good with everybody. Everyone's good to me. Whatever. Like, fortunately, nothing ever violent happened under my watch in the places that I've worked. So,
what's your favorite mixed drink?
I don't like mixed drinks for myself personally.
Do you have a favorite one to make?
I love drinking beer. Beer is my shit. I'm lightweight. I love whiskey and bourbon.
I'm a whiskey.
I don't really drink hard liquor.
I guess as a bartender, do you have a favorite mixed drink to make? Or like, what's the shit? So I also have my ABC license, and
okay.
I have never worked in bartending, but I actually took a bartending course.
Cool. Yeah.
Like for 2 weeks. But anyway, as a bartender, what is your like least favorite drink to make?
Least favorite. Okay. Anything that's like multi-step, like, okay, you gotta muddle the fruit, then you do the thing, and then you get this spirit and this, and like 2 ounces of this and that. I like I want a Long Island iced tea, and I'm like, bet I got all the liquor right here. I can grab all 4 bottles with both hands, pour it out, little dash this, be on your way. I want a Bud Light, boom. Like, I like volume, I like speed.
You're like a dive bar bitch.
Hell yes, 100%.
You're like, I'm not over here like I'm gonna flick this orange peel over
exactly.
Your drink.
It's not my craft. I do this so I can go home and like plug in my guitar and think of creative ways that way, right? Yeah. So that's always been how I've done it. But I've got a lot of friends who are in that industry in that way, that design a lot of cool stuff. And of course, being so close to Manhattan, I used to go to all those places like Employees Only, Death and Company, The Dead Rabbit, and really experience, a cocktail experience to that level. And admire it. And like, that's cool. Like, I don't really like, I could probably, but I respect that you've taken it to this level. Like, you're a professional. That's awesome.
I got you.
Yeah.
Where does the name Super Signal come from?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's actually kind of funny. I was playing in a band with my older sister, actually, called Quiet Giant. We were an indie shoegaze band based out of
I like that.
Is that Danielle?
Danielle, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Danny, my older sister, love her so much. Actually, it was her birthday a couple of days ago. Happy birthday, Danny.
Is she here or?
No, she moved to Boston. At this point in time, she was like Boston. Yeah, she went to.
She seems like she could handle herself in Boston.
Oh,
from
big
what I've heard.
time.
I've met people from Boston. I couldn't handle myself in Boston.
Oh, for sure. She went to Northeastern University too, so she lived it and breathed. And she was there. She worked for the Boston Globe as a reporter.
That's impressive.
Wild, very cool. She's a genius. Spent time out in the Middle East right before 2008, where all the Syrian like civil war and all that stuff started going on, like crazy.
Danny, if you're watching and you want to be a BFF,
yes, you would love her. Most everyone, if not everyone in the world, loves her. So she is
sounds
fantastic.
dangerous not to.
She has taught me a lot in a lot of ways. I mean, she is really the reason why I got into rock and roll, like 90s rock. Like, so in the Walkman, the disc player, it was like the Foo Fighters' first album, or like Nevermind, and albums like that really kind of shaped my love for like rock music. Yeah, Green Day, stuff like that, but also like the Backstreet Boys and this passion for
Z100. But I now have a new question.
Okay, got you. But anyway, so the name Sleeper Signal, we were basically at the end of our tenure in Quiet Giant. That was the name of the band. It was like an indie shoegaze. She was the lead singer and primary songwriter, and I was just the lead guitar player. And it was a lot of fun. But I knew it was kind of coming to an end because I felt a shift. I was getting ready to graduate college and move down here. And her and I were actually on the road, or I was by myself, and I called her. Either the conversation happened together. This guy on the highway had his turn signal on for miles in the fast lane. And I said, that's a sleeper signal right there. He wouldn't change lanes. Right? And I was like, that sounds kind of cool. Like, what meaning could I put to this? And then I started thinking like sleeper cell agents, like the Russian spies, where you call a code word and they get activated. I said, what if I named a band that, and that this new rock music that I make will be the signal to awakening the new crowd and audience of rock and roll, you know, because rock and roll is dead, apparently. Correct.
My God.
I'm so glad you asked that, because I was
So that's
thinking
real.
about that.
I wasn't
'Cause I
expecting
think
such a
about
good
that
answer.
in advance, and I was thinking like, oh, it probably is like the sleeper agent thing, but like
Yeah.
that whole story, like it's so much more.
So basically the
That's
music
awesome.
So glad
is
you
the
asked.
signal that gets whispered to the, hopefully, people that are awoken to it.
Yeah, man.
And like it. So
Oh, that's so
we'll
good.
Well,
see.
well, you guys aren't being quiet about it. We were listening to you guys before you came over, and
Thank
I
you.
like what you do for sure.
I appreciate a lot of that. Like for real. It feels good for me to write music that people enjoy. Our latest single, Out of My Mind, which we released in last October, I was nervous to put it out because it was the first time that I wasn't fully in control of this band. And I sent the finished master before it was released, like publicly, to a lot of my close friends, friends even who have talked shit about music that I've put out in the past that like didn't like it at all. And the response was so positive and sound across the board. People who have not liked what I've done in the past are like, dude, you just figured it out. And that to me gave me such a confidence boost. Yeah, I feel very grateful and blessed. It does suck though if it hit a significant amount of streams on Spotify and Apple Music, whatever the fuck, doesn't matter. I don't care. But if you sold that many albums back in the day, well, now you're somebody. But still broke. The BMI check is kind of a joke, you know. So, but it feels good to at least be out there creating content and stuff like that. We're just adapting.
It's definitely a different landscape.
Yeah.
This actually leads into my next question. So like it is such a different landscape from back then to now. Let's say we'll use just the 70s as an example. But if we're to compare like the 70s to today, like we'll say like, yeah, like 1970 to today, it's like, you know, you have so many more tools available to you now. It's easier to make the sounds you want. And maybe there are sounds that you couldn't have made before that you now have access to, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, so like the catch-22 to that though, is we have so many distractions. So like for me personally, my mom is a really good piano player and she tried to teach me that as a kid, but I just didn't have the discipline. I didn't do it. And I think it's harder to get into a craft now, which is the trade-off for all the technology we have. Do you have any advice for any aspiring musicians about how to learn a discipline?
That's a really good question. When I graduated, well, no, when I was in college, I resented the fact that I was in college. I felt like I was proving a point. I'm the first Tory, that's my last name on my father's side, to actually go forth and successfully graduate high school and also college afterwards. I felt like I had a point to prove. So like a lot of time that I was in college, I was very resentful of the fact that I was there and I just wanted to like constantly be elsewhere. And that's why I also failed high school. I was pushed through because of like the old kid left behind thing, which is wild. Actually, I graduated high school with a 1.5 GPA, which is fucking insane. That's an F for those who don't know. And the reason why was because I never wanted to do homework, because every day I would get home from school and want to play music. If ever I did something bad, like my mom caught me smoking a cigarette, she would take away my video games and not let me see my friends on my cell phone, but would always leave my instruments. I was in trouble a lot. So I was basically like in jail learning music as a kid, you know, thinking, you know, that way.
How smart of your mom. Again, your mom's a fucking badass.
My mom's
dude.
a G. I love that.
I mean,
Again, my
music
best
is
fucking
discipline. You
Nancy.
don't wanna take that away from a child.
Right. No, that's brilliant.
Exactly. Don't take away the thing that
Absolutely.
they're fucking, the only thing that they're interested in. That's how kids become addicted to drugs and stuff like that. Anyway.
Exactly.
But what I realized reflecting back on my time in college was that it taught me a lot about structure and integrity and responsibility and respect, right? The minute I knew that it was costing me future dollars, because I started working young. I bought my first real deal electric guitar, my Gibson Les Paul Jr. I still play to this day. I bought when I was 14 years old, working a summer doing construction with my Uncle Johnny.
Nice.
And it wasn't just like a bullshit, like we were in the
heat. That's a rough first job.
And the minute I knew that I was going to have to pay these loans back and do this and that, I was like, all right, here we go. This is real deal shit. This isn't high school.
You were on top of it. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had to get and I commuted also. It was only 15 minutes down the road from where I was living, but also I was like, I had to make sure I bought a car and got my license and went to class on time and got home on time and didn't get distracted by girls too much and partying and stuff like that. So like in college, like I didn't even really party all that much, especially being in a music program where I was in 8, because being in a state university, like you might be in 4 music classes, but you also have to take 4 or 5 core classes to graduate on time.
Mhm.
So I'd go from sight singing and ear training at 8 in the morning to combo to master class to my practice room to take creative writing and mathematics and chemistry after that, just to go back and play my drums for another 4 hours to gear up for a recital at the end of the semester. So it was like a lot that I had to do while maintaining a full-time girlfriend and also working at the same time. So I've been busy as fuck since I was 18, basically. And I think that just kept me focused on like, I got to make time for this and I have to make time for that. And I'm very regimented in all that. And I have to practice X amount of hours a day to be as good as I want to be. So I would say to anybody who's at a younger age in high school or middle school or getting ready to graduate or even considering go to school, even for some bullshit reason or degree that you might get or major rather, because it's going to teach you a lot about time management and responsibility, almost like going to the military. You know, those guys come out, a lot of guys go in as fuck ups and come out like with families and this awesome job, and they're structured and finding, not being misguided. Like, don't get misguided, don't get sidetracked, stay focused, be better than the guy next to you.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. It's just, that's really hard. It's really hard now.
It is hard
because there's so many avenues to distraction.
I'm very competitive.
Absolutely.
I always have been.
What's your birthday?
September 18th. It's coming up. We'll be 28 this year.
Happy birthday.
I'm a Virgo
Yeah.
through and through. Thank you also.
You would be that organized.
Very competitive, but with respect for the game. Like, I'll never put down another player. Like, if I knew I were better at something than somebody, I wouldn't go out of my way to teach them, like, hey, check this out. Like, that's okay. When I was in Quiet Giant, a lot of guys would always come up and be like, dude, what gear are you running? I never kept secrets. I was like, dude, actually check this out. I got this because so-and-so I heard use this, and it's actually not that expensive. And like, you dial in this way, like, I have respect for the game. Like, it's fucking dope. You got to do it also, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, like we're all on the same team, or at least we should be.
I don't like keeping secrets.
I kind of want to take that question and ask you, because I feel like there is this like this false like scarcity mindset in the music scene, you know, and I don't know what the New York music scene is. And I think that it really depends on the community that you're fortunate enough to find and fall into. But I've been in Nashville 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm 29 years old, and I've just recently found a community that welcomed me and treated me as a peer and like wanted to help me. And like, do you think that that's like a common thing and it's an issue with the music scene, either here or anywhere else, where people feel like, I don't want to help somebody else succeed. I don't want to bring them into the fold, because if you get a piece, it's taking something away from me. And we can take that back to capitalism, but we won't right now, because it's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah. First of all, that is an amazing question. And that's actually one of the things that I tell people most that are either considering moving here, have lived here, or just even ask me, what is your experience like in Nashville? This is the first place I've ever been in my entire life where that scarcity mindset, as far as music goes, is almost non-existent. I have never felt more accepted, supported, at least in the rock scene. Broadway scene's a little bit different, but even then, like, I know a lot of those guys. I've played Broadway gigs. I get it. Like, even then, to that level, it's not, people want to see other people exceed, because we're all so good down here that we know what it takes, and that you're either gonna carry on until you get it, carry on until you don't get it, but also have enjoyed your ride there, or just give up. But either way, it's like we're all going the same way. And I realized this, especially last September was the first time I ever played the Exit In, and I was invited out to do a Nirvana tribute show for the 30th anniversary of Nevermind, and I was ecstatic. This is post-COVID. It was the first time I was really getting to meet people in the rock scene for the first time, and I played it. And from that one experience alone, I got networked with so many musicians that were all still friends to this day. And I've played a number of those type of shows with that same group of special individuals. There is no shit talking. There is no so-and-so's great, but it's just so support. And people give a fuck. How have you been doing? Oh, did you ever release that? How did it go? When? Oh, I heard you're on the road. Dude, if I can make it out, I'm coming out. Support, and not in a phony way either. The jazz scene, though, here, don't care to know it. I don't give a fuck about it. It can fuck off as far as I'm concerned. But the jazz scene as I knew it in the Northeast is so, that's where that scarcity mindset that like this, watch the movie Whiplash if you haven't seen it.
I love Whiplash.
Yeah,
If you love
very
jazz,
much
I
like
don't want
that.
you to feel that way because I could totally suggest an event for you that
I love
think you would
jazz.
love.
I won't play jazz to a professional level ever again for that reason. I am jaded towards it. It doesn't get me off the way that rock music and other hip hop, R&B, funk, soul, it's got to be the people. But like, as getting back to the, you know, the original question, like the scarcity mindset, which is my least favorite mindset, and that goes with everything you do. It's like, no, there is an abundance of everything. You just have to have the mindset that will find that abundance, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can't.
If you see scarcity, you'll
Yes.
see scarcity.
Exactly.
And it's
exactly.
never the people that, you know, you're feeling threatened by, that you don't want to share with, that you don't want to help out, that are the ones that are actually threatening you, you know, much like economics.
Yeah.
You know, like
Well,
we fight over crumbs, and
It's
at the end of the day,
really-
there's people that have like the whole cake.
and
the whole
bring,
loaf.
bring
in my
money
experience-
into it too, though, not to
Yeah.
cut you off, but like,
No,
so
yeah.
like outside of music, I have in my life, I've been broke and I've been really wealthy. And this is all in the past like 6 years. At my brokest, like I've given people like the last of my $2 so they can get, and that's not to be like, I am such a good person for doing this. It's because I don't give a fuck. It's like, yo, they need that right now. Just like when I need it, I'm going to get it somewhere else. So I'm going to find a way to do it.
Yeah, money's
Our
money.
most charitable communities are the ones that
Yeah.
have the least to give, and I've heard that from people before. You know, like they say,
Mhm.
I don't give because I have a lot. I give because I know how it feels to have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you said you got
It's
here
okay
in
to cry.
like
I cry a lot. You know that? I'm
When
a
was-
tough
today?
motherfucker. I cry like 2-3 times a week.
when was
That's
last
a
time,
question.
when was last time you cried?
Why?
Ooh, okay. Trying to think.
While you're thinking about that, for me it was yesterday watching Everything Everywhere All at Once. The movie.
How was it? I want to see it.
You have to. I haven't seen it yet, but you have to.
Yeah.
Because I have to.
You
I'm
must
very-
I
see-
believe in it and I haven't.
I believe it.
He's
So-
seen it and I respect
So
him.
here's
Fill me in.
it's amazing, but like really it's, I think regardless of whether you like it or not, it's something you should see.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's such a,
It's the David Byrne.
it is such a subject.
right. Is it?
It's like, say what?
Was this David Byrne?
I can't remember who directed it. I just watched it yesterday. I don't know who
The dude from the
directed it.
Talking Heads?
Oh, okay.
No, was it or not? I'm
Was
might
he
be
in it? I
confusing.
don't think so.
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't.
I don't think he was
I've
in
been
it.
hearing about it. I don't even know what it's about. But I keep hearing from him.
I won't get into it because
Okay.
it is such a you don't look anything up, just watch it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's an emotional roller coaster, and I wasn't
Cordie,
expecting
I'll
that.
take you up on that other beer, by the way.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
I wasn't expecting that going into it. But man, it got me at the end. Like, so that's my answer. I was watching that movie last night and it
That's really cool.
really got me.
What's another good movie that really kind of got you going recently for me? Like, I think the last movie that really fucking blew my mind. And again, like, I don't watch a lot of movies. I don't watch a lot of TV either. I just, when I can, I really enjoy it. But I'll never forget when I saw the movie Interstellar.
Yeah, that one's great. Christopher
And-
Nolan.
Yeah, again, amazing director. You know, Matthew McConaughey, one of my favorite actors of all time.
Why'd you have to leave, Murph?
Like that shit had me, and
Yeah,
also just
man.
the inclusion of the New York Yankees. Like, oh, look at these bombs, like they're, and I was like, that's fucking crazy. Like it puts things as you know it into like a wild perspective, like of this future place that you couldn't even imagine. That was one of it for me. I like documentaries a lot too.
What's your favorite documentary?
Ooh. There's a couple. Maybe Sound City. Sound City was really cool for me because the idea of like that studio out in California where all like my favorite albums essentially were created, and how it was like kind of just a hole in the wall place. Sound City was cool. I also love the Foo Fighters, and seeing Dave Grohl's involvement with that was amazing.
I actually saw that one
That's a great one.
where Dave talks about like taking over the old studio.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't see that one, but I saw the Foo Fighters like HBO documentary series. Do you guys see that?
Sonic Highways.
Was that when they made an album in each city?
Yep.
Yeah,
That was really
good.
cool.
That was really good.
My friend, one of my longest best friends of all time, my buddy Emmett. We were in college at the time when that was happening, and I would like DVR each episode, and we would hang out and like watch every episode.
Nice.
And it was cool. I remember the one where they were in Nashville.
Yeah.
Send in your congregation.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, dude, I gotta go down there. That was the first time that like Nashville really popped in my mind, like as a place to like maybe go check out.
I like that that was the episode where they brought up Woody Guthrie, wasn't it? I believe so.
I believe, like all those cats. I mean,
yeah,
so wild. And I love how he ends that song too, in particular, like, and the singing like the bluebird in the round, which is like one of the earlier lyrics in the song to bring it back to end the song. I just
Foo Fighters, was that the song they made in Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Documentaries, man. I guess Exit Through the Gift Shop Window, I think it's called, or Exit Through the Gift Shop. And that's about early graffiti artists, specifically Banksy. And he's actually in it. I mean, he's not, they don't show him, they modulate his voice, like they, make it like, we were doing this and that, the other thing. And it blew my fucking mind because like I love street art growing up in places like New York and New Haven, Connecticut, whatever, like a lot of graffiti. My tattoo artist who did most of my tattoos, Mikey V, out of Danbury, Connecticut, he was a graffiti artist before he got into body art and stuff like that. And I miss him so much. I love hip hop. Hip hop is
Me too.
Mainly what I listen to.
We were just talking about, I mostly listen to math rock and hip hop. That's about it.
Yeah. Hip hop has always been my all right, my pre-show routine. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I would love to.
It's how I get in the fucking zone, man. I blast Biggie Smalls or Nas, hip hop, anything. Like I get my alter ego on, my big, I'm the fucking man, can't fuck with me mindset, which I'm not that. Like, look at me, man.
No,
like,
I'm just saying, you've got to, whether it's a job interview or a show, you have to believe that you're a shit. Fake it until you make it.
You've definitely got stage
and any problems, any issues, like shut it out. I am all that exists in this moment, because you let something into your head.
Athletes do the same way. That's why, like,
you got to gas yourself up.
Yeah,
for sure. It's all about like like fighters, like you like MMA.
Yeah. Oh my god, I used to train a little bit.
No shit.
Yeah,
dude, I love
you get knocked out once, puts things into perspective. That happened to me, and I didn't want to do it anymore.
I'm not big on sports, but I really like combat sports.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't practice, but like I like watching combat sports. Yeah. And I don't know, there's something about it. Like I like mostly not even like. See, the thing about boxing is like I feel like that's harder for me to watch because they're going 8 rounds. By the time they're done, they're exhausted if they're going 8 rounds.
It's all headshots too. Yeah. Like that's what's like you can't grapple somebody and choke them out. Like they only got hit in the head 3 times, so they got choked out. These are like boom, face for rounds and rounds and rounds. Someone told me, and I don't know how true it is, but this is what I heard, that a boxing match is actually more like I guess it's more damaging to the brain than a UFC fight. And some of those knockouts are crazy, but that's just like one solid hit versus like one after the next. Just like
that's why I don't like watching boxing. It's actually more brutal because like like MMA, that's quick, like that's it could be over in a round.
It is over in seconds, man.
Yeah. I can't remember why I brought that up. But yeah, like anything you do, you have to I think it's kind of like it's a sentiment about anything, like you have to fake it till you make it. So it's like when you are what you do, you have great stage presence.
Thank you again, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. But like I'm sure every great, before they walk out to like a crowd of people, everyone's probably got a ritual like that where they get into, it's not something like, I guess fake it till you make it's not really what I mean, but like you have to put on that
but it's
persona.
The same sentiment, fake it till you make it. Like if you look in the mirror and say, think of that famous Muhammad Ali quote, like to paraphrase, it's like, I am the greatest of all time, I knew it before it was true. Like something like that's a real quote from Muhammad Ali. And like, yes, he actually was the greatest. Like, I have a not like a mantra, but I have like an affirmation that I wrote down out of a book. I won't say what it is. It's very much for me.
You said nothing was off limits. And I was over here like, what is it?
Well, because I don't want to misquote it. I think that's really why, which is funny because I've read it every day of my life since I was 23.
Send it to me.
I'll send it to you. For those listening,
I
tough
love
shit.
good after.
Cordie knows.
Tough shit, Alice.
Email her. And I could probably easily look it up, but I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I taped it to the back of my vanity, like little cabinet thing in my mom's basement where I would get ready every day for work or school, and I would read it out loud every fucking day. When I moved here to Nashville, that was the last thing I left behind in that household because I thought I was leaving something with it behind.
Yeah.
I lived here for a couple months and my mom said, "Hey, William, I'm sending you something that I had made for you." I said, "Okay." Well, my mom took that. She runs a business, so she has like a heat press that she does like merchandise and stuff. She make like magnets and t-shirts and stuff like that. She took it and screen printed it onto a magnet for me to put on my refrigerator so I can still be reminded. I still have it to this day. This is something that I hand wrote when I was 23 years old onto a piece of paper.
And
I read that.
handwriting and everything.
It was an exact screen print of what I wrote. Yeah, on a magnet. And I still to this day will not go a day, or I try not to, without reading that. And that's one of the things I say to myself before I play every show or get out the road or get out to go on the road, with the band, to remind myself that A, I am worthy. Yes, I can do this. I have the confidence to get this done, and I will not take no for an answer. I won't let myself fail. Basically, to get into that headspace of like, failure is not an option. No is not in my vocabulary. We're gonna win this day no matter what. Type of deal.
Carpe that diem.
Sounds cliche and nichey, but,
but
it is so fucking true.
The most profound truths are simple.
Mm-hmm.
The most mind-blowing things are the most simple ones.
Well, just like fear is a mindset.
The most logical explanation is most oftentimes the most accurate one.
Yeah, Occam's razor.
A lot of my good buddies were in the military, and one of my best friends, Jamie, love him to pieces. He has been one of the most influential people in my life since I moved here to Tennessee specifically. We've worked professionally together, and we've also partied like degenerate fucking rock stars before together. He is a great dude, and I love him. His family, beautiful family, wife and kids. He was in the Navy, and we were talking one day, and I was like, "What was your experience like in the military?" And he was like, "Dude, just like with sales, if you're a true warrior and you have what it takes, you have a switch that you flip in every situation.
Yeah.
To get in the zone like that, no matter what happens."
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're no one's ever ready until a moment, right? Until that moment. For anything.
Yeah. Greatness thrust upon you.
Yeah.
Even
it's like parents, like no one's ready to be a parent until they already are.
So true. They think they are. They don't know.
Yeah.
Right. No, but for real though, like I have had buddies who have had kids who are like, "Dude, I was not ready until the moment I had to be ready. And I'm so glad it happened."
Yep.
And I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah. There's that it'd be like that.
Could you be like that sometimes?
It do be like that.
Me, I'd be like fucking I'd probably get so worked up. You'd find me like just like passed out because my heart just gave out. I'm like what?
Well, Will, thank you so much for being here, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I always love sitting down and talking with like-minded individuals.
Dude, this has been a great interview. I've loved having this conversation. It's a lot of fun.
I've loved every moment of it. Thank you guys so much.
Alice, check out Sleeper Signal, links below. Stream it everywhere, and videos. They have videos out. And we'll see you next week.
Rock and roll.